Changing on my phone. Yeah, there we go. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for watching. This is the third time we tried it, so bless the Lord that we are here together. Today I have a very beautiful person right here in front of me, but very unfortunate situations that we have to come here together. This is the second time I have him. I have him here on my channel. He's an absolute soldier for Christ. He loves humankind. He has been done so much tremendous work in so much of his life, and I'm very honored and blessed to have here. So, Dr. Jacob Pursley, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks, Vartan. It's so good to see you again. Man, I've missed you. We haven't got to talk. And unfortunately, we're coming to talk about difficult subjects and unfortunate circumstances. So, but we're together.
It is what it is. Most certainly. By the way, I'm planning to come to Armenia within a couple of months, so I am planning to see you. So we'll see how that will play out. So last time we were already we're in the midst of the war in Artsakh. For those who haven't seen it, I will obviously put the link in the description. Yeah, so if there's anything that was very inspiring and very precious, was to see that someone who was a non-Armenian dedicated himself in the people of that region, and the way you were putting out stuff, how you were informing people, was something that was very encouraging and very inspiring for all Armenians. So hearing voices like you is an absolute blessing, especially in times of these. So unfortunately, that nightmare is still continuing in a somewhat lesser matter.
Yep.
So for the people who might have heard of it or don't exactly know what's happening, can you tell us what is happening right now in Armenia, or particularly in Artsakh? Take it away.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say that as a Christian that follows Jesus, that believes the Bible, that believes in the supernatural, that there has been an outright campaign in the spiritual realms to destroy the Armenian people. The Armenians were the first to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord in the year 301 AD. And I think that because of that special position, I understand that the Bible teaches that, whoever, works last, they still get the same wage. When you're entering into to heaven, you could become a Christian at 90 years old, or you could be a believer at 4 years old, and you're still going to get the same reward. But I do believe that there's a special place in God's heart for the Armenian people. He's preserved this country and this nation since 301, and there has been outright attack against the Armenian people. They've had a missionary spirit to send the gospel around the world, and they were under Islamic oppression for hundreds of years by the Ottomans, and then they came under Soviet oppression. So, I mean, there was the Armenian genocide that they tried to wipe them completely off the map, and they did not succeed. And now we see the same thing happening again with the same people group and the same religion, Islam, that is really just a demonically inspired religion that is trying to come against the people of God and stirring people up. Not that all Turks and Azeris are bad people. There are normal human beings that are among them that are against the completely extermination and cleansing of all Armenians. But and there's also Christian Azeris and Christian Turkish people that have given their lives to Jesus, and so that's also there as well. But unfortunately, the governments have been trying to wipe out Armenia and the Republic of Artsakh. And if you give me just a couple of minutes, I want to share my screen. And let me see, how do I do this? You know what? I'm probably not going to be able to. Sorry, I'm not going to even try to mess with it right now.
No problem.
I might have an issue like what happened last time. But what I can do is I can at least show you the map behind me. So many of your viewers may have not heard of the Republic of Artsakh, and those that might view this in the future. And So we have the Republic of Armenia, and that's where this is right here. That's where I'm located here in Yerevan, Armenia right now. And Artsakh is located right next to it. And Artsakh is in Armenia have been historic Armenian lands. They've lived there for thousands of years since the time of Noah, and this is their historic lands. And what's happened since December 12th of 2022, specifically, this is the recent thing, is the capital of Artsakh. It's called Stepanakert. It's been blocked off by the Azeris, so there's only one road to get supplies in and out of Artsakh, this republic. And the Azeris have blocked off the only road to get in and out, and that's caused a huge problem. Not only of that, they've cut off gas now and electricity, so they have rolling blackouts. Sometimes, just every 2 hours they'll have electricity. Gas is sometimes only 6 hours a day, which is hard to heat your homes in the winter. And there's around 120,000 people now living in the Republic of Artsakh. So this has been going on now around 54 something days since December 12th. And I could go more in detail.
52.
52 days. Thank you for correcting that. So I could go more in detail about that, but Ilham Aliyev is the dictator of Azerbaijan. And he basically says that there is going to be Nagorno-Karabakh without Armenians. He wants to see it completely ethnically cleansed. He stated that himself. This isn't like a conspiracy theory or anything like that. And right. So they're kind of just biding time. But what's interesting, the international pressure is against Azerbaijan right now. Now, what does that mean for Azerbaijan? Will anybody actually enforce the pressure? I don't know, but it seems that there's been a lot more pressure in favor of Armenia and Artsakh and condemning Azerbaijan.
Right. Yeah, that has been very somewhat noticeable. Obviously, the Armenian diaspora has been not liking anything that has been to do with the corridor. So, yeah. It has been 52 days that 120,000 Armenians have been blocked away from essential life sources, etc., etc. Unfortunately, already a handful of people who had to die because they weren't able to get medically treated. Mm-hmm. But can you please tell us at the corridor themselves what types of people are standing right there, and what is it that they're proclaiming? The reason why they are standing there.
That's a really good question. So what they did is they blocked in front of the corridor where the road is, and they brought in people. And it's I've got a picture I'm just going to show, since I can't share my screen, but I can at least show this. If your viewers can see this. This is the famous picture of an Australian woman holding a dove. It's supposed to be a dove of peace. And as she was yelling and screaming, "Long live Azerbaijan," she was shaking the dove and then killed the thing. So she basically broke its back, and then she threw it up in the air like she was going to release it, and then it just flopped down dead. So these are some of the people that you can see that are out there. But what's interesting is that we now know through facial recognition that the people that are out there day and night saying they are eco protesters. They're basically protesting. There we go. Exactly right there. They're protesting the mining of copper and gold, and they say they're protesting for the environment, calling it an ecocide, the killing of the ecology.
How noble.
Right. What they've done is they've done the video recognition, because you can't get away with anything. I mean, with the technology the way it is today. And the majority of the people that are out there on a regular basis that are looking like college students or young, people, they're all soldiers that were sent there. And this has been verified. People know this now. And lawyers know this. They're bringing these things up. I just sat in on a conversation about this just an hour before we just started this interview.
Right. Yeah. So just to get this straight, so they are saying that we are that Armenians are doing ecocide, so like they're polluting the environment. And that's the reason why there's a whole
Okay.
organization sent towards that particular place in order that they can protest.
All right, let me
How
tell you.
convenient.
Okay, let me see what tell you what they're actually saying, Barton. If so, I listen to the Turkish and Azeri news because I understand their languages,
Right.
and so they've recently prepared a mini documentary for propagandizing their people in Turkey and Azerbaijan about why they're blocking the entrance into Artsakh. And I'm just going to summarize their documentary for the public in three things. They say the first thing is we are doing this as retribution or revenge against the Armenians because the Armenians are not allowing what they call right here the Zangezur
Right.
corridor in the south to connect Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan. And now, if you don't know what Nakhchivan is, it's a autonomous republic that has its own parliament. It's very similar to Artsakh, and but it's Azeri, okay, and it's separated by there's no land road. And so what the Azeris want, they want a land road through Armenia. And a train track to be built on the very bottom of Syunik, or the southern province of Armenia. So they're saying, look, they won't let us get in, so we're cutting them off too. That's one of the reasons.
Wow.
And they're actually saying that. I mean,
They're
it's
saying
pretty.
that. So there was no ecocide, so it's actually
Okay.
revenge. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm summarizing the video. Okay, it was about a
Right.
15-minute
Okay.
video. It was one portion. I was like, that's why they're doing it. That's what's one reason. The other one are two reasons in the same thing. They say because there are copper and gold mines in Artsakh. So they're saying these copper mines and these gold mines are ours. They are ours, Azerbaijan says. So the Armenians are stealing our source and our goods. So we are blocking them from stealing our resources. So they're not talking
Right.
about ecocide. They're not talking about environmentalism in the Turkish documentary that just came out. They're just pretty blunt. And I haven't heard anybody talking about that, but not everybody's watching Turkish and Azeri news. And then so it's pretty interesting is they're saying these are ours. I have a lot to say about that too. But what's interesting is that then you go into like the news today, and the reporters go up to the people that are in the blockade, and they're saying, "Oh, it's about environmental, it's about ecology, it's about bad mining practices," and the really thing that everybody knows it's just a lie. They're just being deceitful. If you're like a thinking person living outside that area, because there's not been one protest that I've ever heard of in Azerbaijan against the environmental things that they do with their oil production or anything else. So it has nothing to do with
Right.
that. The argument is just it's void. It's null and void. They're wanting. I mean, and if I want to go deeper, they want every Armenian in Artsakh to leave. They want to completely ethnically cleanse that area, and they want to do the same thing in Armenia. And I'm not just trying to be a panic porn, as some people call that. It's not that at all. It's that the Aliyev regime in Azerbaijan have been saying that for years and years. They said in 25 years, in the year 2004, the Minister of Defense of Azerbaijan said that in 25 years from now, we are going to see we're going to see Armenia basically return to us. Yerevan is Western Armenia. Sevan is ours. All of Armenia is ours, and they want to see this whole area without Armenians. That's the end goal. So Artsakh is just another step towards that, from
Right.
what I hear from them.
It is, yeah. But the weird thing is that you already mentioned before. You don't want to sound like panic. You don't want to say that is. But the thing actually is that it is the case. Like they are proclaiming it and they're bragging about it.
Yep.
And right here it's like, no, there's no such thing as 2023 right now. Wait a second. A year doesn't have to do anything with the state of what the particular type of mass could uphold. So for the past thousands of years, what has happened? What do you think that the coming years will entail for us? Like what yesterday has brought us can predict something very realistic for us what will happen in the future. So it is a very naive thing for the people in the West. Which
Mhm.
annoys me the most is the people in the West. They really think that, oh, it's so far away, I don't care anymore. So like, oh, they're fighting over a piece of land. Look how unsophisticated they are. But you don't understand. So it's a very frustrating to see.
No, no, it's really important for Western Christians or Korean Christians or Christians anywhere to
Mm.
identify with the body of Jesus Christ. Now, I am not saying that every single Armenian in the world is a born again Christian that loves Jesus and is following him. However, that being said, there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of true believers in this region. They are praying on a regular basis. They have a missionary spirit to reach out to the people, the very people that are killing them, so that those people can know Jesus. There's something that's been going on here spiritually in this part of the world, in Armenia and Artsakh, that I believe is another reason why the nations are raging, as it says in Psalms. Why do the nations rage? And but they're wanting to come against this new revival, if you want to call it, awakening, if you call it, an awareness
Right.
that missionaries needs to leave from Armenia and go into all these unreached places around us. And so I see that that's one of the issues. But I just listened to the state minister, Ruben Vartanyan, speak just an hour ago. And he said that he had just got back that day from going from village to village, speaking with the people in Artsakh. He wanted to see how they're feeling and what the mood was. And do they have hope and things like that? One of the things that he said, he said, I was encouraged after talking to the normal villager. He said, I was just going to quote him. He says they say, we are strong. We have been living in the same conditions since the first war. So they're like, this is our life. And he says that we have courage to defend our land. Nobody talks about leaving. Nobody says, oh, we need to get out of here. No, they're saying we're going to stay here. This is our land. We're going to defend it. And and so they're in he was saying that he had a meeting with a group of mothers, and he wanted to see how they felt. And Ruben said that they have been making plans as mothers of Artsakh on how they will defend their lands, support the men if they have to fight, and educate the children and keep the children and the families strong. And they're not thinking, let's get out of here. No, it's like, this is ours. We've been here for thousands of years. We're not leaving. And he said, I was so encouraged after those meetings.
I'm encouraged.
Yep. Well, this is what I think. You know, the Bible is pretty clear. I love to bring the scriptures to bear on every subject because they do. The book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 10, if I believe that that's correct, it says, do not remove the ancient landmark of your forefathers. It's there's at least 5 or 6 times in the Old Testament where the scriptures is very clear, gives a command: do not steal, is basically what that means. So you have a landmark that would denote the property lines of what your land has been and has historically been. And this goes back to the basic 10 commandments. Obviously, it's do not steal, thou shalt not steal. And what you see is the Azeri government wanting to remove the ancient boundaries that have been there for thousands of years. And there's a curse in the scriptures for those that do remove the boundaries. And I just want to bring that to bear because I listen to a lot of politicians. I listen to social, political science majors and so forth, and lawyers talk about this. You know, we need to look at the Montevideo Convention, and according to the 1933 Montevideo Convention, the Republic of Artsakh has met every single point and article to achieve statehood, self-determination, and so forth. And so everybody's looking to an ultimate authority to prove their point. But as Christians, it's very clear. This was the appointed fatherlands for the Armenians in Artsakh and here in Armenia as well. And there is a curse for when you just decide to have greed in your heart, envy in your heart, and you want to go not only steal their land, but you want to murder them for it. and you will deceive others to achieve your goals. There is a curse upon those peoples and those governments and those that support that, according to the scriptures, and that's not a good place to be.
That's not a good place to be. So, as Paul says in Galatians 6:7, for God is not mocked, be not be deceived. As a man sows, so shall they reap. So,
Yeah.
Ironically, I saw today uh, a picture of the Azeris, particular a while ago, where they were pasting. I don't know if you can see it. So, like, oh wait, darn it! You see here they have a shoe, and right there on the bottom of their shoe, there's a cross
Oh
as a
yeah.
sign of that they were mocking like Christian faith. So these were Azeri or Turkic people. They were doing this, and I'm like, just wait when Christ comes back. That's all I'm saying right now, right? So,
Well,
but
it's interesting that he actually says that he's ruling in the midst of his enemies, and they are going to be a footstool for his feet in Psalm 110. I'm sorry, it's a
right,
little
yeah,
ironic.
yeah, yeah. But you already alluded or mentioned before that there is also some type of revival going on. Like the whole reason why I called my channel Full Armor Apologetics was, by the way, obviously like Ephesians 6 for
Perfect. Yeah.
we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, etc. But you already mentioned before that there is a some type of revival or spiritual warfare going on in that particular.
Yeah.
I've always believed that within my body and in my soul. But can you please allude to us what is happening, or what could be very encouraging to hear for our
Okay.
folks?
I'm gonna pinpoint a time. To be honest, when I first came to Armenia, I came to visit in the year 2008. Okay.
Yeah.
So I visited, I was living in Turkey at the time, and I would come back and forth and I would visit this country. I had many friends at that time, and I would bring Turkish and Kurdish converts to Christianity that were leaders in the churches in Turkey so that they would meet Armenian pastors and Christians, and that they would confess the sins of the genocide of their father so that they would reconcile. Okay. These were reconciliation meetings. And I remember the first time I went to maybe 15 churches in the year 2008. There was not one church that even knew that there was something called a Turkish church. And they didn't even know that there was any kind of missionary Christian church activity taking place in Turkey. And obviously, in my diasporan friends would be probably more shocked at the time to learn that. And but I remember people just looking at me as this novelty. You're not Armenian, not Turkish. You're this weird guy from Arkansas, and you're over in Turkey, and whatever. You're just this weird guy. But well, God bless you. You're trying to do a good thing, right? Um, and in 2014, something changed. There was a group of Kurdish convert Christians, about 30, that gathered in Istanbul, and I was with them at the time. It was a leaders meeting, and it was really unprompted, but they felt so convicted that there's such a curse on their people and their country because they committed this huge massacre against the Armenian Christian Syriac Greek populations, that they began to weep before God on their faces, begging God for mercy for their people, their relatives, their friends, their cities, for the sins of their fathers. And I remember that happening, and then other large gatherings where Turkish pastors began to understand the importance for reconciliation and confessions of sins. And in 2014 and 15, there were some large meetings that happened between the Armenian Christians and Turkish and Kurdish Christians, and I've been a part of it ever since then. We call them reconciliation meetings. And at that time, churches began to commit, both in the diaspora and in Armenia, to pray for the surrounding nations, for their salvation, that they would become Christians, because that's the only way we're going to have peace. I mean, that's the only thing, is going to be in Jesus Christ. And so, but literally 5 days a week, 8 in the morning, churches started praying. So when you start praying, it really does impact. God listens to our prayers, and then when you're praying for somebody that is an enemy, you begin to think about them a little different. And then you're like, well, I think I can go there, and I think I can preach the gospel to these people. And then I think I can go there and I can help start a church. And then when you have a Turkish or a Kurdish Christian that is coming to you and saying, We have been left orphans, spiritual orphans, and you are our spiritual fathers, mothers, and grandparents. Come back and teach us. Come back and show us what Christianity is. We killed you all, we wiped you out, but we need you again. That impacts people. And so what I've seen is this movement of people, and mainly in the evangelical world, but now I'm seeing it in the apostolic churches as well. They're saying we need to go back. We need to go back and we need to share the gospel. We need to plant churches. We need to get the Bible into the hands of these people that were our former enemies. And that's so starting in 2007, 8, I've seen this change here. Now it's more common knowledge around here. And then in 2020, Vartan, when the war happened, I have so much I could share about this. I'll try to be short. That's when this country mobilized for prayer. I was on prayer meeting groups with the Catholicos in Istanbul, and this person and that person. World churches all around, churches all over this country were coming together every single night. I was in a prayer meeting every morning, every night. This country began to change and look to God for its help. And I've seen the same thing. And I just had another kind of really influential person just in my house about an hour ago. And he was saying this blockade is bringing the Armenian people and those in Artsakh now closer to God than they've ever been. So it's like
Certainly.
all of this persecution, all of this suffering, all of 110 million people coming against a population of 3 million, David versus Goliath, is people are realizing, where does their help come from? As Psalm 121 says, our hope doesn't come from the mountains, it comes from the Lord. And people are actually going to the Lord because they're looking at, like, who's going to help us? Russia, the United States, France?
Right. Exactly. You just you hammered the nail on its head. Especially since the war, the 45 days war.
Yeah.
My conclusion was that those who really have their hopes in the world, that they have the toughest battles to go. Good luck with that, right? So, do you really think Putin is going to help us, Biden, Trump, whoever? Spiritually or psychologically speaking, you cannot be at rest in any type of way. And the war did shake up a lot of stuff. So people were asking, so if God is good and we are God's people, why is this happening to us? Like, what is happening in the world is very different to what is not of this world. And especially the person that came to your house today, absolutely is correct. And there's so much going on such a deep level. So something that was that all the prayers on a very quiet and low level eventually will come, will take root.
Yeah,
So,
and it is. I have a home, and we have a school in Syunik province, which is the southern province in Armenia, all the way down here, and a little place called Mehri Agrak. And I was talking to, I have so many friends there. I love that place. It's probably my favorite place in Armenia, by the way. And anybody who has not been to Armenia listening, you guys got to come over. This is a beautiful country, by the way. The mountains, the history, oh my gosh. And to me, the most beautiful part is the most southern part, and it takes you about 8-hour drive to get there from here. So it's really far as terms of Armenia size. That's really far. Well, anyway, I was talking to villagers there recently, and here we have 15, 20 villagers in our house. We're having dinner, and they're saying, well, what if the Naqshbanis just come right across the border right now? Because it's only like maybe 3 kilometers, the border, or what if the Azeris come from the other side, which is only 30 kilometers, and they come into this house with a gun right now? What do? We don't have weapons. We don't have guns. How do we defend ourselves? And people that are in that situation, they have no one else to go to except for the Lord. And they're trusting him. I mean, they're trusting him for everything. And that's what our conclusion was with my friends in the villages there, is that we have to pray and put our trust in the Lord. Yes, we do have the right to defend ourselves. I'm not saying that you just pray. That's very biblical. It's in the Old Testament, it's in the New Testament. If somebody comes into your home, you can defend yourself. And if you do kill them, you are not guilty of their blood. It says that in the Old Testament. So there's a right to self-defense in the
Yeah,
scriptures. And we actually, I think there's an obligation, to be honest. But we ultimately, we know that we are to trust the Lord.
absolutely. Even Paul says in Romans 12:18, if it is possible, keep the peace, right? So if it is
Yes.
possible. Or even Matthew 26:53, where Peter takes up his sword and slashes the ear of Malchus, right? He says to him, put your sword back to its place. So wait a second. Was there even a place for the sword? So does the Lord obviously apply that you can be armed, but you obviously need to use that arm in a very,
Yeah.
in a very, let's just say, a useful way. So
Can I say something really that was really interesting that I heard again tonight from Ruben
yeah,
Bogdanyan? I really, really liked what he had to say. We were talking about what would he say to an Azeri if he could talk to an Azeri population, like if they would listen to him. He said a lot of things, but there's one thing that caught my attention. And one of the things that really caught my attention was that he said, I own a company. We had 5 Azeris working for us back during the Soviet Union. Azeris and Armenians lived amongst each other. We had, peace. There is a way forward that is not war, that is not murder, that is not killing, that is not, all of those things, right? What I find interesting about that is I talk to many of my friends that are usually over 45, 50 years old that remember the Soviet Union time. And they always say, we live together. And they always talk about the way that used to be. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because when I hear and I talk to ordinary Armenians, they're not talking about let's just cut off the head of every Azeri. Let's wipe Azerbaijan off the map. Let's just let's massacre and murder. They're not talking like that. I hear it on the streets. This is like my normal everyday, experience. But then you listen to the rhetoric from public officials and others in Azerbaijan, and it's the opposite. It's like cleanse them, kill them, get rid of them, wipe them off the map. They're not. There's no peace. There is no
yeah,
peace on their side, and that's why I like the picture of that dead dove, because that's their type of peace. They say, it's death actually, but on this side, I don't see the same rhetoric and I don't see the same hatred.
yeah. Let the Lord help us all, keep us pure. And we have seen for the past few years, we've seen obviously a lot of videos of how children, Azeri children, are like programmed, like to step on Armenian flags, to wish
Right.
death upon them, or even that the helmets of the deceased soldiers of the last war.
Right.
There was an amusement park for kids.
That's right.
Like, what kind of a special kind of demonic do you have to be in order to organize those type of stuff? Yeah, like it goes beyond my, like, I understand that there are psychopaths, that I understand there's evil in the world, but this is a different kind of demonic. Like, and these are our neighbors, as a figure of speech, but obviously not every Azeri, not every Turk, or every etc etc. So
Sure.
but the hard thing actually is, especially in the West,
Yeah.
when you are like functioning in societal rights, so you're going to work, etc., you come across different types of cultures.
Hmm.
But when it happens there, it also happens here. So when something happens internationally speaking, everybody here right now obviously somewhat shifts in
Hmm.
all of a sudden. Like, someone who was your friend or a colleague
Yeah.
just looks at you a very different way of something that happened right over there. So it's not geologically bound; it's spiritually bound.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
goes beyond that. So it's a very terrifying thing for all of us. Or even a couple days ago in Los Angeles, a couple of,
Yeah.
I don't know who those guys were. They were they were putting flyers of Turks, Azeris, Israelis will wipe away the Christian Armenians off the map, and I'm like, even there. So
Yeah. I understand that. Hey, I got distracted. I was looking at one of your one of the people that
Please do.
commented. It said, Armenian Orthodox Texas. It says,
Right.
why not talk to an Armenian priest or bishop about this topic? There are many amazing people that Vartan could have chosen. And I just want to thank him so much. It is a privilege to talk about this, Vartan. And I do understand where you're coming from. But I do want to congratulate you in Texas because your church, St. Sarkis, in Dallas, Texas, won the best building of the U.S. award. And I've been to that church. I know everybody in that church. Levonde, the priest there, is a good friend of mine. And
Wow.
I say hello to, if you are watching, congratulations, guys. You do have a beautiful building. And Levon, if you're watching, hello too. So there are some great people that Vartan could have chosen, but I was
Absolutely.
privileged and I appreciate it.
Most certainly. Obviously, there's a big reason why I'm having you on for the second time. Obviously, and by the way, this is my. If you don't like it, get your own channel, right? So, but I'm most definitely planning to charge forward. So the Lord will guide me on who I will have. So just subscribe and get the notifications on, and you will see what happens. Anyway, um, most certainly. But then my next question is: as far you obviously are politically astute,
Mhm.
or if you have something to say, what can you tell us about what is happening internationally, politically, and especially on how Azerbaijan is using their oil money in order to like the way they're grabbing the international world leaders in order to get to their side. So, is there something that you have to say about that?
I mean, just you know that companies and world leaders uh, do not make Jesus as Lord of their lives or their companies or their countries. Even though they are actually supposed to be ministers, as the book of Romans, chapter 13 states, it says they are actually ministers of him, they are completely denying him. And so what happens is they don't really have a moral compass or ethical foundation to make a decision whether they will or will not do something. And the only person that can do that, the only people that can legitimately do that are Christians, because we have the Bible. We have 66 books of scriptures that is our basis for faith and practice, morals, ethics, and absolutely everything. So this is an apologetics channel. We have our presuppositions are based on the scriptures for what we say and do, and why we do things. So when it comes to like British Petroleum, where that's where England, the company in England that's getting their oil from Azerbaijan, or you look at the nation of Israel that receives around 40% of their oil from Azerbaijan as well. They're not trying to evaluate whether this is a moral or ethic thing. And if I can criticize the United States. I'm an American. Like, I'm appalled at what my government does. I'm absolutely hate it because we are taking oil from Saudi Arabia and other places that are persecutors of Christians and and have nothing to do with human rights or God-given human rights, but we take their oil as well. So every government is guilty of this. So I mean, I'm just going to go back. It's to their presuppositions. They don't recognize Jesus as Lord. They could care less if somebody is stealing from a poor country because they don't get anything for it. It's just selfishness. It's pride. It all
Right.
goes down to that. I mean, so that's why, like, that's why the Bible is pretty clear. Don't put your faith in man, because you're not going to get anywhere with that. They have their own selfish ambitions. Now, actually, Armenia does have a lot to offer. By the way, this country is very wealthy. There are so much resources in this country, from uranium. I mean, this could supply the uranium from the world right here in Armenia, but they're not doing anything to mine it. There's all kinds of everything, gold, every kind of metal, but it's not being used. But just there is stuff here that's
Okay.
good. People
Right.
just
Yeah.
about that.
That is a subject in and of itself. So Armenia and its infrastructure and its politics, that is the department later on for another session probably. But you are correct that uh, like if you just look at the West for a couple of hundred of years, for how they have been
Yeah.
de-Christianizing the West, and how the way how it's actually like imploding, like so many presuppositions and basics of life, which goes beyond ourselves, obviously. So we need to serve something that is beyond us, God Himself. If we don't do that, then everything's collapsing. But also on a global level, on a more selfish level, when it's
Mhm.
not a moral, we don't have to look at morals anymore because I decide what is moral, because I feel it is moral.
That's
And
right.
if I can get money out of this, so yeah, darn those Armenians. And that's exactly what the Armenians are in. So
No, but that's why it's really hard to appeal to people that don't have Jesus as their Lord. It's like, what are you going to look to? Well, that's what lawyers are trying to do. Well, look at this human rights document. Well, they're violating A, B, and C according to some agreement made by Minsk or something like that. Everybody's looking for a document to go to. But to be honest, the only document that we need to go to is the Bible. But these people have completely rejected that. And so truly, we are in God's hands.
we are in God's hands. But um, as Job 5:13 says, for the Lord catches the wicked in their craftiness.
Mhm.
Or when John 10 27 to 34, I know my sheep, they're in my hands, they're in my Father's hands, right? So obviously the Lord is implying that there's nothing going to happen that is that's not in my control.
This
So
is something interesting that you just said. So, for the first time in the history of Artsakh, okay, let me like in modern history, this since December 12th of last year, it's been recorded 40,000 different written journalist documents have been written around the world to highlight what Azerbaijan is doing to Artsakh. Artsakh is being put on the map for the first time in its history in a public way with all of the social media, with all the YouTube, all of the things that we have.
like we do right now, right?
We're doing right now. And that's good for the country because one of the things that people are learning is that there's a people that live there, they've been there historically, and they're being oppressed by a bully. And that's kind of spreading out now. And you're having other countries that are coming around, France being really one of the top ones. America is coming around. I don't know Holland's status. Maybe you know more about that. Uh,
I recently saw a picture of Mark Wooden who was shaking hands with Olive, so that's a no right now.
okay, and I know that 10 states in the United States have recognized Artsakh as a country, as a republic. And I think there's a lot more to come. So I think this is actually backfiring, and all of the plans are being exposed, going back to Job. And it's going to be for the benefit of Artsakh. That's my hope. I'm not a prophet, but this is being widespread and going out more than it's ever in the history of
Certainly.
this area.
Certainly, yeah. There are lots of technological advancements going right now, which we are benefiting right now.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, I'm not planning to sit down and watch things happen. So, I want to get involved, obviously. But the more challenging part, if it comes to spiritual warfare, it is very annoying that we know that the dumbing down of society, people are not that invested anymore in researching stuff, everything, or our fangs or claws are being defanged, right? So we are becoming more and more weak, as I can say. And these types of information, like, people don't care anymore. But obviously, there is a huge part of society that does care. So
Yeah.
there is a quote market for people who are involved, who are interested in this type of stuff. We just need to find them, and we need to connect people with each other. And as you mentioned before, stuff is happening right now thanks to the technology, social media, etc., which could hopefully mean very beneficial things for the people of Artsakh, for all who are persecuted or trampled in the world. But
Yeah, well, one of the things I'm seeing, and I just again heard this tonight, that the United States is considering bringing aid in to Artsakh. That's a big deal if they make that decision. And of course, they should have done that a long time ago. But this is finally on the platform for the Biden administration. So I find that interesting. Is that there are some people that still are maybe suppressing the truth that Jesus is Lord, but they're still acting like Christians, whether they were, because that they're created in the image of the triune God that loves all people, and so there's that still that humanity left in them, and so they're going to act as Christians without acknowledging Christ. So that I'm so happy that we are all created in God's image, because there are people that show it more than others, whether they recognize Jesus as Lord. But what I think is, when it comes to the audience, is that each person listening can play a role in helping Christians, the 120,000 Christians in Artsakh, by simply praying. I know that sounds like a cop out, but guys, have you ever prayed for Artsakh in your life? Have you prayed for the capital of Stepanakert? Have you prayed for the prime minister, the state minister, all these people, the Ministry of Defense in Artsakh, that God will give them wisdom? You pray for revival, pray for God's just opening doors. I mean, if you're praying like this, not only are you going to be connected with that, and you're begging God to help, you may be, God may be putting this in your heart to go there and do something. You might decide, you know what, I want to help them with business. I think I want to do trade with them. I think I want to I want to go there and visit as a tourist. The blockade's not going to stay forever, and then I want to help develop tourism. And then when you're there, you can encourage the people while you're there. If you're a Christian, you can pray with them, tell them how you're with them. There's so many things that you can do as a Christian. Anyway.
But you know what the funny thing actually is? It doesn't even take that much of an effort. It's so weird. So even the smallest gestures can give such a ripple effect, which only the Lord knows how far it reaches. So,
Yeah.
like last time we were here, some folks were asking me, brother, how can you? If I recall correctly, it was Brother Ryan who just came in. The Lord bless you, brother.
Okay.
He was asking, how can I help Armenians? And I'm like, just pray for them, just be with them. Like, you don't have to go get into the Armenian army, or if you have to donate every money that you have, right? So it's not, we Armenians are not asking them. We can take care of ourselves. Trust me, we can take care of ourselves. But it does mean a lot that if you have an Armenian around you or online, just the simple support just means so much.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
actually should know how much that invigorates and revives people. Absolutely.
No, I'm not even Armenian, but when I find out that there's like, I get emails from some person in Indiana or some backwoods town in Ohio, wherever they're at, and they're like, you know what? I just wrote my senator and my people in the government to let them know they need to help Armenia, or they need to help Artsakh. And I'm like, wow, like, these people have never met an Armenian. They probably didn't even know where it was in the map, but they're out there, and they're advocating for people that they realize are their brothers and sisters too. And so that encourages me. I'm like, I'm not even Armenian. I can't imagine, like, if you're an Armenian, you're like, what's this crazy person over there, and whatever, in Ontario, Canada, or wherever they're located. I mean, I don't know the geography of Holland that well. I know a few things, but I mean, like, some small town in Holland, you got some Dutch church saying, hey, we're behind you.
Yeah.
We're going to write you, and we're going to, wherever that is, that helps. That really helps.
It is this type of everybody. It has such an effect. Like how I cannot describe it how much it actually means. So, like, suffering is really suffering when we have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And the moment I really put my back against the world and face my Lord, and obviously try to work for Him, is I had like a group of friends. So if people are watching right now, I'm mentioning you right now. Um, that they were symbolizing my relationship with the world, with the Western world, right? So when the war happened, a couple of them did like reach out to me. They were wishing me luck. They were seeing that like four of my family members were like deceased by drones and those types of stuff, like every day coming by. And a couple of them didn't even say anything. They didn't even. By the way, they even unfollowed me. Like those types of the way how I was putting out stuff on my social media, it was like not good for them. Like so, like they were like it was negative energy, some type of thing. And I'm like, this is the world. Like
Yeah.
this, as there was the moment I'm like, okay, these are not my type of people. So at that moment, I swear allegiance to my fellow brothers and sisters of the Christian faith, and it's the war is real. the wars.
Bart, I want to just to briefly focus our attention on how all of this is connected with Iran,
Please
because
do.
it really is. You know, back in 2020, I didn't talk about it because I felt like if I did, it would be a national security issue. But now people have been talking about it a lot more publicly, and other political scientists have been discussing it. And so back in 2020 in the war, I was watching what Azerbaijan and Turkey were doing, saying that they want to, take over certain parts of Artsakh, but really they want to take over a corridor to connect Turkey, Nakhchivan, Azerbaijan, and also with Turkmenistan, because Tayyip Erdogan, the dictator of Turkey, he has been saying for a number of years that they want to have this pan-Turkic conglomeration of power, if I can call it like that. And the thing that's been standing in their way, if I had this, okay, we're down here at the bottom of the map. You just go and you're right into Iran. The thing that connects Turkey and to Turkmenistan, or Azerbaijan to Turkmenistan, there's something standing in their way, and that is a little tiny strip of land. It's located in Iran. The Azerbaijanis call it Southern Azerbaijan, and that strip of land that they want to take is also called, they call it the Turkish Golden Bridge. And so what I've seen is that there's a larger play at here on the Turkish Azeri side, and also with Israel supplying weapons to Azerbaijan and their trade. There's something more than just weapons and oil. Israel can get oil from a number of places. They could go to Nigeria. They could go all over the place. We know that Israel and Iran are political enemies. And we also know the United States is a political enemy with Iran. And it seems to me that this year of 2023, there's going to be a huge war in Iran. I mean, we're seeing a couple of days ago, there was 3 attacks in Iran. Marand, Isfahan, and Ahvaz were droned or bombed. And they're claiming it was Israel. Maybe it is. I don't know. But the point is that this would, if Iran breaks up, obviously there's been a revolution there, uprisings by the public. They want freedom. They don't want to be under. They don't want to be under Sharia Islamic law anymore, and the regime. And so, like right now, Iran is ripe right now to kind of have this implosion and break up into pieces. Turkish news talks about the breaking up of Iran all the time. And then it would seem to me that they want the northernmost part of Iran for themselves. Israel wants to see it disabled. America would like to see it disabled. And unfortunately, somebody wrote here, Israel is also against Armenia. Maybe that's true. I mean, I don't. I think Armenia is actually caught in the middle of all this mess, to be honest. But this is something that's happening, and we're going to see more of this in the very near future.
Right. So on the last response, what did you say as far we're able, obviously, that the government of Israel is very different from Israel itself, right? So the Zionistic government is like giving stuff. So.
Yeah,
obviously, there was also like a week ago there were also like Armenian restaurants were attacked in Israel, stuff like that. So I saw those types of things come by, but
yes.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's just recently that was taking place. There's been a lot of things happening there, but I think that will calm down. If I'm looking at it from a spiritual perspective, though, Barton, which is much more important, I think that God has been preparing this time for the gospel to be advanced and preached in the country of Iran, because right now you cannot do that. And I really believe that there's going to be in the near future, evangelists are going to be going from village to village, preaching the gospel and starting new churches. The existing churches there are going to be open now and free. There's going to be massive stadium type revival crusades will happen, and the people are right. I mean, we see people from Iran come to faith here in Armenia often. I mean, just in my
Yeah,
living room
there's
last.
a huge revival going on in Iran. It's weird. I had a Shia ex-Muslim who became a Christian, and or he told me like in
Yeah,
Iran there's something very interesting happening. A lot of people coming to Christ
yeah.
there. No, it's
We
very
see
weird.
that. We see that, and I think that Armenia plays a role in helping the Christian communities in Iran. Obviously, it was Armenians that have discipled the majority of the converts. I mean, there's all of these Armenian pastors and churches all over Iran, and they're the ones that have led many of these to faith. And they're pastors. I just had a couple at my house 2 days ago, and they were from Iran. They were converts, and they were saying that their pastor has been sentenced to prison for 10 years, and they gave me his name. It's an Armenian man. Armenian man was pastoring an Iranian church, and now he's in prison in Evin prison in Tehran right now for
Right.
his Christian activity. So it's the Armenians are doing the work in Iran too. But I think it's going to open up even more and more. So again, Armenia is the Armenian Christians are key people for this region and for the
Yeah.
advancement of the gospel. Again, my point from the beginning is that this has been a really a spiritual attack on them. But I think I have a really positive outlook that I think that Iran's going to open up for the first time in over 40 years. And we're going to just see this amazing coming of people of faith to Christ in this region
Wow.
through all this turmoil.
Yeah. Now you do have a very good feel of what is happening to particular people, what's spiritually happening, what type of revivals could happen.
Yeah.
So it's almost prophetically what we're speaking about. So it's very weird to see how history is like unfolding itself like in the midst of chaos, and then later on we're like, my goodness, we were part of history at that moment, and you're right at the middle of it. Um,
Mhm.
I also that was an amazing when I saw a massive Christian Armenian gathering in Iran for a protest against the blockade, which is kind of amazing, which is true. Like in
Yes.
Iran, there was a protest against this blockade,
Yeah.
so it's very encouraging. Um, yeah, what rests us more to say? Obviously, for those who my whole annoyance, what I'm annoyed by is the West, like the state of the West, the mindset of the West, the stuff that they are busy with, all the soap series that they're watching, football games. I don't mind them doing that, but there is obviously when Christ is not in your life anymore, everything just falls down, and they're too blind to see it. It's but anyway,
Yeah. Well, the frustration's real. Materialism, consumerism, those two things are fatal, and and unfortunately, the church syncretizes, and we get caught up in the same laziness, lethargy, whatever you want to call that, and that's why I always just recommend that people just begin to pray and actually read their Bible and read it every day, morning and night, and then find a Bible teaching church that actually opens the Bible and preaches the Bible. And you're going to see changes in your life, the way you think, your focus, your desires, your hopes, dreams, things like that. I mean, because Jesus has to be your Lord. He really has to be our Lord. I mean, that's over everything. So he has to be Lord over what you watch, what you eat. I mean, over every aspect of your life, from your family to your business and so forth, and your government and your army. He has to be Lord, and he has prescribed a way for us to do everything. But it doesn't take much to snap out of it. It's just like, okay, I'm going to pray now. Okay, I'm going to open my Bible and I'm going to read. And then I'm going to read it and I'm going to say, how am I doing this? And am I doing this thing? And then I'm going to ask God to help me do it. And then I'm going to find Christians. I know when I first came to faith, Vartan, when I first became a Christian, that was the thing that helped me. I was doing drugs, I was smoking weed, I did every horrible, vile thing probably you could imagine. And when I came to faith, the thing that helped me get out of that horrible lifestyle was I became friends with really strong Christians, and I hung out with them. So when you like, I don't know how much your viewers know you personally, but if they can hang out with you more, you'll be blessed. And find people like Vartan that you can hang out with that are going to challenge you in your faith, challenge you. And what are you doing with this? And do you really believe Christ is Lord? And do you really believe the scriptures are his word? And are we to look at this for our faith and practice?
And the salt
And
of the earth.
that's right. So
The salt of the
be
earth. Yeah.
yeah, be with Christians. That helps. Just some base stuff that God's given us. Read the Bible, pray, go to church, be with Christians, and be with like-minded people so we can spur one another unto good works.
Absolutely. Yeah. That that has been such a blessing. That at the war was one of the few moments where the Lord just like already told me, okay, Vartan, now's your time to put your focus on something else. Like 10 years before, it's a small testimony of things. 10 years before, I went to a festival, and there's a particular moment at the midst of all the music and commotion around me. There was a moment of silence. There's like some type of a bubble, like even the decibels were I couldn't hear anymore, and I heard a voice, and it says, Vartan, right now I'm going to let your curiosity take you where it leads you, but later on in life I will call you to me. And for a decade long I didn't know what to do with it, and then Christ brought me here, and with all the energy I have and all the talents, faculties, attributes, everything I have, I'll do it obviously for his body and for his bride, and for not only for my Armenians but also for everybody, the Armenian or non-Armenian. And my life has never gotten this much meaning in my life. I cannot wait, obviously, that he stands before me, and that he shows me what type of ripple effect I've had on this life, like how many hearts of might have touched. I cannot save the world, obviously, but I do have a small piece on this earth, and I really need to take good care of it. And you have been an inspiration as well. Not a lot of people would do what you are doing right now, so that inspires me as well. And the Lord has used you to inspire me. So thank you, Brother Jacob.
Vartan John, someday we need to talk about presuppositional apologetics. I don't know where you're at on that. I know you do. I know you do an apologetics channel, and you have different people on. But I'm not sure if you know that, like, I wrote an entire dissertation on how to use presuppositional apologetics as a discipleship tool.
Right. I do know that you, wait a second, you have something written on academia.edu for sure. I've seen that.
Stuff. Yeah, I've got things
I will watch it
on different things, but that's actually my expertise.
Right. Yeah, I love presuppositional apologetics. That is like absolutely.
Specifically,
Greg Baumson, Van Til. Wait a second, I got Van Til here somewhere.
Yeah,
right.
All that,
yeah.
that whole group. Yeah, there. But I love the application because it's so relevant to government, to military, to war, to absolutely everything. And I just anyway, I find it because it's great for apologetics, but it's a discipleship model as well. And so that's one of the things that we focus on with people from a Muslim background.
Shortly put, that is your expertise. Is quite obviously the faith is very broad, but you love like presuppositional apologetics.
Right. Yeah, and its application to specifically Muslim background believers. For me is kind of because I actually did sociological studies on that subject, and actually even from Azerbaijan, I have all kinds of things I can talk about Azerbaijan from my study. I don't never talk about, but it's fascinating.
Like you know me by now, right? So every time when someone mentions something, I have to buy the book. I have to read an article. So I will delve into your academia most certainly. By the way, you also had like I want to say like a year ago, a half year ago, I WhatsApped you obviously that at Karahunj, remember? Right. So you had a very interesting thesis. I was like, darn, that's interesting.
My thesis, I still feel, and I still actually I can verify this, is the best thesis on what it was used for. Hands down.
I never thought of it.
Karahunj are basically Stonehenge in Armenia, and they got these holes bored into them. If anybody needs to look at what those are, everybody thought it was this astronomical, ancient alien kind of theory deal. And then other astronomers went through the studies and debunked them and said it can't be. So that's a fun subject, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty convinced that. Well, I know my thesis is stronger than anyone out there, which I think it has a connection with Noah's Ark. For those
But
listening,
would you imagine if like the contemporary Christian apologetics academics word would just catch on this? Like I'm
yeah. So okay,
just
so it's
I'm
interesting,
listening.
like because I'm a presuppositionalist. I mean, there's just stones in a field. That doesn't prove anything to me. I don't care. I'm like, if it ends up being that thing, well, the Bible already says it anyway. So that I care more about my that Jesus is Lord and the
Right.
Bible is, as a presuppositionalist. But it's just really cool that you can find things in history and archaeology and or in manuscript evidence that point to what we already know to be true.
Yeah.
That's what I love
Yeah.
about it. Not that
Yeah.
it
Me
grounds
too.
us, it just shows, hey, yeah, the Bible was
Yeah.
really was.
Obviously, you are not an evidentialist, obviously, but
Oh, no, no, no,
still,
no.
there are very interesting, like as you mentioned before, like science is talking about. Let's give evidence. Like, dude, we have Ararat, we have the Ark of Noah right there on Mount Ararat. Genesis 6:15 says that it is 30
That's right.
cubits long, which is like 156 meters.
Mhm.
Guess what? How long the
Right,
ark is on the Mount of Ararat. So
right,
how are you going to explain that away? Good
right,
luck.
right. No, 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 they can't. But that's again why I'm presuppositionalist, because think about this. Like every single person always comes against the knowledge of God, and they have these stupid arguments like, oh, well, the Hittite people never existed, and we can't find any historical or archaeological evidence until they do. And then it was a huge kingdom based out of Ankara. And then did those people submit to the lordship of Christ and give their lives to Jesus and say, "You are Lord"? No. They're like, they're just going to change their narrative. So, and I don't want anybody ever to base their faith on an experience or on
Right.
evidence that they find out there. It needs to be grounded in the Word of God and the Trinitarian God. Again, that's why I'm
Absolutely.
very strong presuppositionalist in that reason. I've got some other reasons specifically, but mine have to do more with why that's important for somebody coming from a Muslim background.
Right. Yeah. Jacob, like Lord willing, please do that the next time we speak to each other, that obviously the situation in Armenia will be a bit more calmed down. Maybe in a
Sure.
couple of months when we'll see each other in Armenia, we're going to talk about this. And most definitely, I've read your articles,
Yep.
I've
Let's do
marked
it.
everything. So what can I say? Obviously, there are no words to describe how thankful I am for the Lord for men like you. The Lord bless and preserve your family. The amount that you're doing is tremendous. Dr. Jacob Pursley, thank you so much for being here and the knowledge that you've shared and the love that you have shared with us, all the good thing that the Lord is doing with us. Uh, it is impossible for me to listen to you and not be come to rest in particular sense. So thank you for it. And I obviously wish that every Armenian or non-Armenian or someone who cares feels the same way. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Vartan. Thank you that we could be together. You called me, and it's a privilege to talk to you, to be on your channel. And anybody that's listening, great to meet you here tonight. Hope to see you in Armenia. So maybe Vartan could have a trip and say, "Hey, come to Armenia with me." I don't know if you know, but I started a company here a while back, and I have a part. It's a tourism company where we do spiritual tourism, and we take people through Armenia and explain the historical and biblical importance of Armenia. And we take them, we've got a lot of different tours. So that's one of those little side gigs that I do. But it really, really helps this country because I want to bring Christians here, just like they do in Israel. They have these, the Hajj trips. You go on, let's go see Jerusalem. Let's see where Jesus walked. I'm like, we're trying to make Armenia the second Israel, and that because it's very important for
Wow.
Christians. So we're
Yeah.
bringing people over. So we'll do some stuff when you're here too.
Darn, I will be how would you say? It's not the CEO, but the CEO, whatever it is. So I will take part. So
Sounds
yeah,
good.
amazing, man. It most certainly is. There will most definitely be a market for it. So amazing that even those type of side hustles you have. Well, is there something? Are there things that you don't do? Like can you
Oh,
dance or can you sing as well?
I was a mixed martial artist. I think I told you that. I did that my whole
Right.
life until I moved to Turkey. I just don't fight anymore. I haven't fought in a long time, probably since I was 24 or 5. But I did that from 11 years old till 23, probably 4 to 6 hours a day. That
Sure.
was my
Yeah. Right. So you're like a Clark Kent actually. Anyway,
I enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot.
absolutely. We're enjoying with you. So everybody who's been watching, we're gonna thank you all for being here. Obviously, as I mentioned before, this channel will be for the long run. I like to see how things are progressing over time. So I
Mm,
will have Dr. Pursley on here more and more often, obviously, hopefully for other subjects. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to close this one out, and
great.
the Lord bless you all.